All right. Welcome to the SIAC sit down. We are live at the beautiful Clayton County Convocation Center. Convocation? One of them. Okay, one of them. Well, whatever it is, we are here live at the SIAC Championships here in Monroe, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. I am Sylvester Williams, Slider Sports Guy. Behind the camera, you can't see him. There you go. He's the producer and the co-host, the one and only Jamie Walker. How you doing, Jamie? Wouldn't nobody listen and nobody care. Nobody but me. I would care. I would care.
I would listen, but I wouldn't care.
You heard the voice. I know you know the voice. I know you know him. You've seen him all over. A living legend, a walking legend we have here with us. The one and only Mr. Charles Ward. How are you doing, Charles Ward?
Well, I'm doing just great. Glad to finally be able to get on the show with the both of you. So this is an honor.
Well, we were saving it for the right time. You just don't bring legends out willy-nilly. You don't bring the legends out willy-nilly. You got to wait till the right time to bring out the legends. And since we're here at a championship, why not bring them out at a championship?
You know what that really means, right? That just means I'm an old guy and I don't get out of the house very much.
Man, well, we're here live at the SIAC Basketball Championships. The women's final just finished. They're having the net cutting ceremony for the women right now. Congratulations to Miles College. Miles College wins. They defeated Lane a score of 59-52. Three-peat. What can you say about Pete Asman and what he's done at Miles College with that women's program? Ever since he took over, they gave him the interim tag to start off. And, you know, he won with the interim tag, and they said, let's go ahead and make him full-time, and all he does is keep on winning.
That's all. And, you know, that program really is interesting because the infancy of it kind of really started with Philip Wallace, with Pete, and then when Pete took over, just kept it in stride, and you can see what he's done with this program now. Back to back to back. That's just phenomenal work for him.
And all they do is win. That's all they do. This game right here, this was interesting because I got to see Miles women a couple of times this year. I got to see them, but one game I saw when they played Clark Atlanta, and they were up by 20 when they played Clark Atlanta, and Clark Atlanta fought back, and ended up winning by 4. And so I was like, I don't know if this Miles team, do they have it up here? Do they have it? Are they quite ready? Because Miles is young. They're led by a freshman point guard, Samarian Franklin. She's awesome.
Just got MVP awards for the tournament. So.
She just won the MVP award for the tournament. Just won it. But Miles is really young. The guards are really young. The post players are all seniors and grad seniors. But those guards were really young. And so I was wondering if they had it up here to win the championship, to win the conference championship. But they showed up and showed out.
Well, you know, it's interesting because St. Miles spot played Tuskegee twice during the regular season, and what we saw, I saw at Temple James when they came to visit us there, I saw a team that was really dynamite, that I thought, okay, nobody's going to beat them. But as you referenced, Clark Atlanta got them, and Edward Waters got them in the course of the season. So I was thinking, okay, well maybe it's not as invincible a program as I thought coming into the season. But as you referenced, when it's showtime, they show out.
They showed up. And you know, it's funny you mentioned Edward Waters. Edward Waters was kind of the shock. Edward Waters was the #1 seed coming into the tournament. They were ranked 3rd in the sub-region, or the region. They were 3rd in the sub-region, and they ended up getting, I'm talking about taking behind the woodshed.
Sure. Yeah.
They got a good old-fashioned butt cutting from Albany State. Albany State beat them in the second round, opening round here, but the second round of the tournament, they beat them by 31.
Yeah. I think it was 80-49 final score in that ball game. And everybody in the arena was just in awe of what Albany was doing in that ball game. probably
sharp.
the best game they played all season long, and they held it for the best opponent of the season when they got Ever Waters.
And I'm telling you, man, it was just great watching these teams play. And then we fast forward. If you follow Miles' journey, the semifinals, they played. Okay, the semifinals, they played the 11 o'clock game yesterday, and it was a jam-packed. They played Clark, Atlanta.
Right.
What the conference did, the conference ended up bringing all the elementary schoolers from Clayton County School District. They brought the elementary. There's Caleb over there. Come around to the door. They brought in the elementary schoolers from Clayton County, and when they brought those elementary students in, they were super loud, Charles. This arena was jam-packed. They had about 3,500 elementary schoolers here making noise. They brought in, each elementary school has a cheerleading squad. So they were wearing their cheerleading uniforms. They were just go. It was pandemonium in the gym. It was pandemonium. I loved it.
Right. I mean, think about it, though. It's a great combination. You got a bunch of young kids getting a day off from school to come watch a basketball game in the middle of the day and probably lunch thrown in. What else can you do but be happy about that? They were off the chain in terms of the loudness.
It was awesome, and I really loved the fact that those young women from Clark and from Miles, they got to play in that atmosphere. They got to feel that, man. That's something, man, just to feel that atmosphere, feel that game. And I'm talking about loud. You got them yelling in the back of your ear. Those kids, for the first half or the first quarter, definitely, they didn't even care who they were yelling for. They were just yelling.
Every basket go in.
Every basket they were yelling. Every time down the court they shout defense, defense. Right. They're doing their cheer. They don't care. But the Clark Atlanta cheerleaders kind of took advantage because Clark Atlanta brought their cheerleaders. And what they did, they took advantage of the situation. They went in, and the cheerleaders kind of galvanized all the elementary school, and they said, hey, you got to cheer for the A.
Nice.
So they changed the crowd over. And it was a Clark Atlanta crowd. It was a Clark Atlanta crowd, but they couldn't hold up. They couldn't walk away with the win. Miles ended up beating them 75-72, but it was still an awesome game.
You know what? That's a dimension that we were talking about yesterday when we were talking about it off air. Was that for the conference itself? That's the kind of environment they're trying to create here for the entirety of the tournament, and that really is the kind of element or the thing you got to do to start getting more participation. We're here in a great facility in a great location for basketball. Now that outreach to the community is the thing that's going to take what was an example with those kids and make it a day-to-day thing as part of it.
You're right. That outreach to the community is so big, man. It's so big to have the community involved. And let's be honest, it's an 11 o'clock game.
Sure.
During the week.
You got to do something.
Because most of the fans, they're alumni, they have a job.
Sure.
They got to work.
That's right.
But to have that place filled up with the community support like that, man, that's awesome. And then also what I love, you have an opportunity to plant seeds. Because you have these elementary schoolers. Now, let's be honest, these elementary schoolers probably had no idea where Miles College was.
Absolutely.
They don't know where Fairfield, Alabama is. Right. So now they have something to build on. They say, okay, we cheered for Miles College. So now that curiosity strikes it. Let's see, what is Miles College? Where is Miles College? So now, maybe 5 years down the road, they can make a decision,
We were talking about that as well in terms of one of the things on the concourse level that was absent when the kids were here was kind of a recruiting table. And it may be a little bit premature to have recruiting tables for elementary school kids, but as you referenced, that's a good place to plant a seed. You're not really recruiting them for the next year or two. Mm-hmm. You're just putting this bug in there at 5 years from now. Yeah, I remember that school. When I was in elementary school, I went to a game. And that's really all it takes.
That's all it takes. And here's my thing. What I would do, if I was the grand swami of all the presidents of all these colleges, I would make sure if you make sure once they know that this game is going to be the game that the elementary schoolers go to,
Sure.
I would make sure that all my cheerleaders come, even if my team isn't playing. I make sure that my cheerleaders come, and I have T-shirts, and I'm just throwing T-shirts to the kids. I'm throwing you might can't throw a mug. You might hit one over the head with a mug. Throw some
political rally.
You know, just throw out some swag, throw out some little things to the kids. So now they'll walk out. They got a Miles T-shirt, or a team that isn't playing. You know, they would have had a Lane T-shirt with them going out the door.
Yeah, I mean, I know one of the things that I do in terms of venturing about the HBCUs to cover games is that every time I get to a school that I have not been before, I buy a T-shirt. And then, you know, over the summer or next year when I'm wearing that T-shirt, it just reminds me of my time at that school. It's the same thing for these kids. They get a T-shirt back at that age, so they can wear that T-shirt for the next 10 years before it wears out. So.
I do something similar. When I go to a new place. I ask the AD, can you please give me a free T-shirt?
I got to do that. I'm saying, right?
That's for free stuff.
See, you're the SWAC. You get that, right? They just tell me, sessions are out here, buddy. Go ahead.
Can I get something for free? That's what I like, the free stuff. I want the free stuff. But yeah, so that was that girls' game. That was a great game. But like I say, Miles are just too strong. They're just, and they're so young. They're led by Samarian Bond, a freshman. But also, they brought in a couple of her former summer league, travel league teammates. It's like 5 freshmen from Birmingham came in this year, and they all knew each other since the 6th, 7th grade, and they said we wanted to play together. And they are a championship.
Oh, that's an interesting mix to have that backstory about how they all got to Miles College. Really speaks to the friendship amongst them to really make that situation where Miles had to pay attention to it and bring as many of them as they could. You're talking about the new people at Miles College. One of the women I want to point out that's been there for a few years now, that's one of the old heads, Madison Lee on the inside. She's from my hometown of Statesboro.
Okay.
She's been a staple with Coach Asman since the time that he's been there. And it's a combination of the younger players and the more seasoned players of Miles has kind of led to this back-to-back year.
And that's you hit a real good point. You say those younger players and those seasoned players. Because you know in today's modern world where you got kids coming in and out, transferring in and out, if you can get you a few seasoned people who stuck around for a while, if you can get a couple who stuck around and you mix with some hot shot freshmen, you get 1 or 2 transfers, recipe for success.
Hey, I know it's going to be a more of a foreign story as this whole NIL and portal thing continues, but this is an example of you've got senior players that they provide that leadership to help the younger players transition into the program. But you got so many moving parts now that it's going to be difficult to say that I got a player that's been here from the very beginning all the way to the senior year. But that's another conversation for another day.
You're right, man. Well, we're done talking a little bit about women's basketball. Before we jump into the men's game, Charles, a lot's been going on in football, man. A lot's been going on in football.
Oh, no question about it. You know, this is the time of year that you start seeing all these coaching changes. You start seeing now players announcing transfer through the portal and the like. But you're right, as you get to the end of it, it's almost like you're starting up for the new year coming ahead, but it's mostly about transactions at this point. So.
I tell you, man, I think since the last time we've been on, Jamie, we've had, how many new coaches we got out there? We have Thomas Howard at Savannah State.
We do.
We have Coach Bowser at Albany State.
We do.
We have Coach Sims at Clark Atlanta University.
We do.
We have Coach Sherrod at Morehouse.
Yes.
That's 4 of them.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're talking about just how many coaches or new coaches are in effect, man, it changes up really the whole dynamic of the conference. And so when you're talking about who goes worst first, not just the coaches that came in, but the coaches that left. You know, you got the likes of Quinn Gray that's moved on to Florida A&M, his alma mater. Where does it take that Albany State team at this point? You saw Morehouse with a little bit of success. They fired their coach, bring in Coach Sherrod. We don't know what that's going to be. That's what, second coach in the last 2 years? Oh, last 3 years?
Great.
So what does that look like going forward? So it'll be interesting this year. And, you know, I know that we got a couple of people here that may be part of the program and, you know, all those things, but there's some hot seats as well within the conference. Not going to speak on that too much, but it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to what football will be this year.
Well, pick up on Jamie's point, though, when you start talking about the coaching changes that you guys have laid out, one of the positives about it is that these changes occurred right after the season, which gives that coach a chance to kind of get acclimated to what he's going to experience with this new program and to experience with the new kids. Because, you know, I teach over at Morehouse College, and I have a couple of the football players as a part of in my classes, and I just ask them straight out, you know, what do they think about the change, and then they hadn't named the new coach at the time, but a lot of them had their own opinions about it in terms of thinking that if they just stayed the ship, things were going to be okay. And then some of them were like, well, there were so many things going on internally that maybe it was time for a change. So there's so many dynamics that go into that, but the biggest one is what Jamie's talking about. How do these new coaches fare when they get to these programs?
I tell you, Morehouse took their sweet time.
Sure.
Morehouse took their time getting the coach, right? They ended up hiring, I think, Coach Sherrod. It was after Valentine's Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't too far after.
Yeah, they took their time. They took their time getting them in. But Coach Sherrod, we'll tell you a little bit about Coach Sherrod. Coach Sherrod is a Duke graduate. Started his playing career at Duke. Started his coaching career at Duke. So that bodes well for that Morehouse.
Sure.
They care about academics over there at Morehouse.
Sure.
You got to be able to read to go to Morehouse. You got to be able to read. But not only did he coach at Duke, he coached one season at Tennessee State also. And then his past couple of seasons, he's been in Texas at an NAIA school. And he wasn't just there holding up the walls.
Gotcha.
He was winning.
Sure.
He was winning over there, you know.
It's an interesting point there, Osai. I want to ask both of you guys if you have an opinion about it. The uniqueness of Morehouse as it relates to this academic side, in addition to attention to athletics, does it mean that they probably have to take a little bit longer in deciding which coach they want? Because one of the realities of Morehouse is going into that coaching situation, you got to know that the budgets aren't going to be where they should be, and the emphasis at that school is rightfully so academic. So a lot of times in those interview processes, coaches are going to be expressing things that they want with the program, but they may not necessarily be there at Morehouse.
I think the expectations are that, I want to put this in a delicate manner. You're going to have to adjust and do more with less. And I think they have some financial backing, but it's not towards necessarily athletics in the same sense as, you know, your public institutions in the state of Georgia. The cost is there to go to the school. And there's investment in other things. But the athletic piece is oftentimes the background of what the school is. They're going to turn out some great men. They're going to do some great things. You know, we discussed all year that SIA sit down. You know, all of those are not necessarily going to be great football players that go to the NFL. So at the end of the day, I think winning is important to the culture of Morehouse. But at the same time, it depends on how they want to go about doing it. And we see within the last few years, you go about it a certain way to be able to stay on that. It's called.
Yeah, I tell people a lot, man. It's a tough place to win at Morehouse. It is on the football field. It's a tough place to win because, and let's be honest, man. Let's be honest. When it comes to football, you got 60 people on the team, 70 people on the team, and you need this to be the one that'll get people upset. But you need people.
Over here.
You need about 10 of those guys who still write X when it's time to sign their name. You need about at least 10 of those guys. You need at least about 10. And those guys can't get into Morehouse. Let's be honest.
That's right.
Let's just be honest.
Right.
So you have to recruit a special type of athlete when you're coaching at Morehouse. And it's a tough one to get, but they're out there. They're out there, but it's a hard job. It's a hard job to find them. And when that coach you can find them, when you can find those athletes, Morehouse could be a great place to play. You're in Atlanta.
Sure.
You're in Atlanta. You're right next door to Spelman. If I'm 18, that's a hard place for me to say no to.
Good selling feature, no doubt about it. But yeah, I think you're right. That paradigm is really unique to Morehouse because of that, the cost of that tradition of academics, that it makes it a little bit higher consideration in terms of the people that they bring in. But I think they've got a good selection of depth coach, and we'll see how they fare this coming year.
All right, let's move on to the next one. The next hire was Coach Bowser. Coach Bowser down at Albany State. I didn't see this one coming.
I didn't either.
I didn't see this one coming. I didn't think.
I did not see that.
I was shocked. So this will be interesting because people down there in Albany, they like winning. They like winning down there in Albany.
Sure.
So Coach Bowser, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a lot about Coach Bowser because he coached in the Cupcake Intercollegiate Conference, Intercollegiate Athletic Association. I think that's what it's called. The Cupcake Intercollegiate Athletic, something like that. He coached up there.
Sure.
And so I don't know a lot about him. His overall record, it leaves a little bit to be desired. But you got to trust in your athletic director. You got to trust in Coach Kelly. Or not Coach Kelly, I'm sorry, Athletic Director Kelly.
Excellent call.
You got to trust in her.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't think there was any way that they were going to keep Quinn because Quinn had put his footprint on that program, was ready to move on, rightfully so, for the next level. So when you make that choice of who you're going to bring in, you got to be certain that you're not going to lose any ground based upon what a football powerhouse in the SIAC and in the region has done for years and years. So the Fowler's really going to be into a very heavy spotlight when he comes in down there in Albany.
I know, and those expectations are high, and they care about football down there.
Sure.
They care about football, and so you bring somebody, I guess, who's a little new to the conference, new to the area. He has to go and shake some hands and kiss some babies. He got to go and get himself acclimated to that area, and we'll see how it turns out down there, bro.
But to your point, you have to lay in that trust with the athletics director, Christine Kelly, down there. She's been around athletics for a long time, starting out as a sports information director. So she knows what that program's like at Albany. She knows the culture down there. So she's not going to risk bringing someone in there without knowing that they'll be a good fit down there. We hope.
Yep. So, moving on, our next hire is Thomas Howard. Thomas Howard, a Morehouse grad. He took the job at Savannah State. Now, Savannah State has had not a lot of success in football. That's putting it mildly. Savannah State probably sucked. Let's just be honest. Jamie don't like when I talk like that, but sometimes I gotta say it.
Back it off, right?
Jamie left, but Savannah State has not been good. Now you bring in Thomas Howard. Thomas Howard has been a lifetime HBCU guy. He's coached. He's graduated from Morehouse. He started at Allen. He coached at Lincoln. He was the D coordinator at South Carolina State, D coordinator at Norfolk, D coordinator at North Carolina A&T, D coordinator at Alabama A&M. He is a lifetime HBCU guy and was at Fayetteville State. Now he gets his first head coaching job at Savannah State. I believe Savannah State is one of those hidden gold mines. I think if Savannah State ever got the right combination in there, if they got a coach that can coach and an administration that back them, Savannah State could be a destination for a lot of kids and a winning program.
I agree with that 100%. And that really starts down there with the president that's only been there for a few years now, but is really starting to put his definition of what he sees Savannah State becoming as an institution, which includes a lot of outreach to the corporate community, which means that the monies that they have not been able to access in the past, they will have access to that, which will spill down into athletics. But we were talking a few minutes ago about the situation down at Albany State and the reliance on A.B. Kelly to make a choice. Same holds true for Savannah State. Opio Marshall-Ricky is a seasoned AD, started out as a sports information director, and knows that Savannah State culture, just like Kelly does at Albany State. And coming from where they were the last few years about trying to change that dynamic, he's going to be at the front of that. So his choice, I believe, is going to fit his attitude and approach to what they do down there.
And one thing I said, I tweeted this out Thursday. I think Savannah State has the best traveling fan base. And the reason I say this is because every time I see Savannah State come to Atlanta, they're always there. They're always there. That bright orange and blue, they're there. You call the game. You saw how many Savannah State people were there.
Sure. Well, I want to add one caveat to that.
Okay.
What black person does not want to come to Atlanta? So,
that is the cheat code.
You may have to go to another situation of another city in which they played to maybe have a stronger argument, but I won't disagree with you. Savannah does have a good, solid traveling base because their alums are just so committed to the success of the school. Although I think this school may have the best.
Yeah, Tuskegee may want to argue. Tuskegee may want to argue with you.
Sure.
But it's Savannah State and Tuskegee when it comes to traveling to support your team. Because I saw online that Savannah State softball team was playing Clark, Atlanta, and the Atlanta alumni chapter got out there and they filled up the softball field and fed the softball team. So that Atlanta chapter, Savannah State chapter.
There are several players from the metro area as well. So, yeah, I can attest that they did feel the field and they did well. So, I got to give you those.
And, you know, while we're talking about Savannah State, I know our conversation has been mostly about football at this point, and we were talking a little about the administration and the athletic staff. One of the gems that they have in terms of one of their athletics programs is their baseball program. They've done year in and year out extremely well inside the conference, and this year they defeated the #1 team in the University of Tampa early on this year. So things are really on that crest for Savannah State if they can just continue at and start doing it within what we call the revenue sport, football, because it's already established with basketball. They played in the first round of the tournament last year and got all the way to win the title a year ago. So evidence is already there for basketball as well. If they can get that leader with football headed in that same direction, you're going to see even more fan support and alumni support.
I think so. You're right. You're right. Now, our last new hire in the conference was a shock to everyone. I guess the hire wasn't a shock. The firing was a shock.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it.
Teddy Keaton got let go. My guy, full disclosure, Teddy's my guy. Teddy's my guy.
Sure.
So, host of the show may give that insight.
Yeah, you have to be his guy if you're hosting your show, right?
But he got let go from Clark, and Clark had to find a new coach. They found Coach Terry Sims. Now, Coach Sims, he is no stranger to winning. Coach Sims, former coach at Bethune-Cookman. Was it college back then or university?
Yeah, I think it was. I think university was he was.
Okay. Well, he was the coach at Bethune-Cookman and won a MEAC championship. Won a MEAC championship, had a lot of success at Bethune. He recently served as I think he was a special assistant at Alabama State. I'm not quite sure that title.
I think it was special assistant.
The special assistant at Alabama State. Well, Dr. Finch and Dr. Drew decided to bring in Coach Terry Sims, and now he's the head coach at Clark, Atlanta. This will be his first time coaching Division II, but the man is the winner. He wins. Should be interesting.
And I think you're really talking about two dynamics there. You're talking about a divisional drop, but you're talking about a level of experience from Division I coming down to help for the Division II schools. And that really speaks to the attitude of the president, Dr. French, when he was at Miles College, set some milestones there and really achieved a lot. He is constantly committed to athletics and football being the top rung. So they're not going to take a chance on someone that they're going to have to show a proving ground to. I think that drop with Sims coming in is going to be a big benefit for Clark Atlanta. Although it's difficult to follow in a Coach Keaton's shoes, but if you're going to do that, you're going to have to make sure you're going to go from top down and get that experience and try to replace, if you can, what Gatekeeping does.
It should be super interesting this upcoming football season because I'm really curious as to what Coach Sims is going to run when he gets there offensively. Because, you know, Coach Keaton was a wide open. They threw the ball all around the field. But Coach Sims likes to run that thing. He'll line you up in too tight, and he'll run straight at you. So it's going to be a little bit of change in the guard in the offense. So, and they also hired a defensive coordinator, Coach Barlow. Coach Barlow. He was the defensive coordinator at Fort Valley, and Fort Valley had one of the best defenses in the conference, period. I thought they had the best defense in the conference because their offense was terrible. But
you can't do very much about that.
So now, you know, you got a real strong defensive coordinator. So what does Coach Sims do his first year there at Clark? This should be really interesting.
Well, I'll put the question to you, but since you're going to become he's going to become your next best friend when you start doing his show when football season starts. You saw them play last year, and you had the show with Coach Keaton. Do they have the personnel in terms of players to shift from a wide open type offense to one, assuming Coach Sims says let's run the ball? Do they have the personnel to make that transition?
From what I saw, they don't have the personnel to run too tight. But it's the magical world of the portal. You can just reach your hand in the portal and pull out two big tight ends.
I like that.
You know, the team that they have, they don't have two tight ends and that offensive line that's got to run greater offensive lines that'll run straight at you. So you got to recruit. You got to bring in some new players.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were talking about. The fact that it theoretically is not too late in the game to go out and do that, get in the portal. Then yeah, you address that now, and you can probably get all that filled before you get the first practice.
And also, spring ball's coming up, so you're gonna find out what you need.
Sure.
We're gonna find out what you got and what you need. We're gonna find that out real quick, fast and early. So that should be interesting right there coming up. Now, we talked enough football. We're in basketball. We might as well. This is interesting. The combination we have here.
Not at all. Everybody talks to, right? You want to know my opinion? That's it.
Look at this guy show up.
Even if you don't ask him, he'll come out and tell you. Here's my opinion.
But I think this is interesting because this is the voice of Tuskegee. He's done every Tuskegee game. I've done every Morehouse game. So now, if no one has seen these two teams play, I think we've both seen these two teams play.
That's true. But I think, as we talked about off air, it's still up in the air. Because they're so not similar in style, but they play at a level of intensity that it's just a matter of which swing takes place during the course of this ball game. Of course, we're talking about Tuskegee Morehouse in the championship ball game here at the SIAC Men's and Women's Championship. But I think it's just going to come down, Slide, to who really seizes the moment early and gets that momentum and does not relinquish. That's my opinion. I don't know quite who that favors, but I've seen them both play, and I know that they are very similar with the level of the way both coaches approach the game.
I think so too. But what am I thinking when we talk about the coaches? I got to talk about first year coach Larry Dixon, head coach of the Morehouse Maroon Tigers. Maybe the most energetic man who's ever walked on the sideline. Coach Dixon is walking back and forth. He's jumping, his arms in, he's waving. Coach Dixon has actually caused a couple of turnovers on the sideline because he's so energetic over on the sideline.
Man out there.
He's the sixth man.
I tell you what, Slide, until watching the Morehouse game with Drew Recovery, I had never seen that before. He is just up and down, up and down. And the times that we had him here in the tournament, we had him here, we were like, and he had to sit there and watch on, right? At the end of the ball game when we interviewed him, we just said, Coach, tell us about your steps. And he was almost where he wanted to be with his daily goal. But he is just a fireball as it relates to getting on that sideline. But that's an added element for the players to see that kind of excitement from the coach.
Well, let's flip the camera to you. We'll do another one. Oh, damn. We done left us. Well, and just the energy, talking about Coach Dixon's energy, that energy transfers over to the team. And that's how that team plays defense.
I agree.
They play defense. They're in your face. They're undersized. No matter who they play. But they work so hard. They work so hard on defense that they make things happen being undersized.
I'll tell you what. If you had to vote in terms of the most energetic coach, it would certainly be Coach Dixon, number one. But I think Vincent Taylor would be a very close number two. He does a lot of animation on that sideline with his players. But one thing you'll notice about Taylor is he works those officials from the opening tip all the way through the game. And I've seen it countless times this season where he has not influenced the call right in front of him, but influenced the situation that later on in the game he gets the call that he wants because he's dropped the bug. And I don't know how loud the bug is, but he's dropped the bug in the official's ear throughout the ball.
And you know, it's funny, you talk about working the officials. That's a sign of a good coach. You get Coach Taylor, you get Coach Dixon. Both of them love to stay in the officials. Anytime it's a timeout and the officials are on the same end in Morehouse, oh man, Coach Dixon won't let him leave. He won't let him leave. He's there. He's talking.
They've been calling this game of Dwayne Walker, the man, the Mr. Legend. Thank you so much. That's how we see it.
Yes, that's you.
Well, Dwayne is humble and modest, but Dwayne is one of mine. I tell people all the time, I call color. I'm good at calling color, but I like calling play-by-play. But there are a few people, and I'm just glad to be here because these are actually two people that I don't mind stepping to the side. Whenever they call play-by-play, I gladly volunteer and I will step to the side and say, I'm going to call color to let these two guys call play-by-play. Because I've listened to Charles for a long time. I learned a lot from Charles as listening. Dwayne has pulled me to the side, and I've worked with Dwayne for so long. Dwayne has taught me so much about the craft. I've learned so much from Dwayne, just regular conversations. I learn from Dwayne all the time. I learned the hard way, Charles, about stepping on his toes thing. I stepped on his toe once.
Oh yeah.
I stepped on his toe, and he reminds me. It's been almost 10 years. He reminds me every week.
Sure.
I stepped on his toes.
Sure.
He reminds me. But working with these two guys, man. If you watch the championship, the tournament this week, you got a treat but you got to hear two of the best. And I'm arrogant. They're humble. I'm arrogant. So if I say they're better than me, they got to be better than me.
Sure. That's the man. Absolutely. Yeah.
You can be your authentic self. You don't have to copy anybody. You don't have to emulate anybody. Just be your authentic self. People will accept you for who you are. If they're down with you. If you're taking the food very well and describing the action in a professional and sometimes even playful way. Charles and I love to just have fun together. We've been doing it a long time and we're unapologetically ourselves. And we're still media focused, you know, because we are professionals at the end of the day, and we address it as such.
I've known Dwayne for a long time.
He's old.
That part too, but it's also so much. And that authenticity so he loves to show even within his work. We used to talk about that kind of stuff on air or on the radio station. And it was awesome. So I thought I was going to be live. So he's like, no, money to play my play. So at the end of the day, man, I got to get this.
Let me just add to that, Jamie, for just a second. And I've never told him this. I think I may have mentioned it, but not the full story. So I'm on a trip in South Africa, right? And I'm listening to, I've got the television on, and then I hear this voice coming on, CNN headline sports, right? And this is my guy, Dwayne Walker, doing it. That's before we actually even met. And to know that that background was there when I first met him, to know that that was part of his history in terms of broadcast, you know you have to give ultimate respect to that. Because if you meet him, you're going to come into a situation of an extreme professional. And that's all I've ever witnessed from him, just the top level of professionalism.
I knew he was a professional when he's the only black guy I know who calls hockey.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That let me know he was pretty good.
Go on a big screen for some hockey here in Charlotte. Is it next week?
So yeah.
Sure. I told him we got to check Guinness Book of Records. See if he can get in there.
We got to.
Much appreciated. Very, very, very kind you guys to say. Even as veterans, we're always learning.
All right. Well, enough about talking about these guys, man. Let's get back to this basketball game. We talked about the coaching breakdown. We talked about the two coaches coaching. Let's talk about some of the players we're going to see. I guess I'll talk about some of the Morehouse guys. Morehouse, I call it a three-headed monster. They are deep. Now, I think everybody plays. But they have the three leaders, what I would like to call, would be Jamonte Hill, third-team all-conference, Josiah Lawson, who should have made all-conference, and Sincere Moore, second-team all-conference. Sincere Moore is one of the smoothest players you will ever see. He is just so smooth when he plays. Great guy. Josiah Lawson creates nothing but mismatches for whoever he plays. He's about 6'5". He can put it on the ground. He can dribble. He's a dead-eye shooter. I call him the microwave because he comes off the bench and he lights it up. He gets things hot quick. Benny the Microwave Johnson. And Jamonte Hill, if you want to draw what a basketball player should look like, you draw Jamonte Hill. And he does everything. He will get there. He will rebound. He'll go to the hole. He'll shoot the outside shot. He even guards. He's 6'5", and he guards the center on the other team sometimes. Jamonte Hill. Those are those three guys you want to watch for if you're Morehouse.
Yeah, you're right. We actually saw, you talk about sincere more. This smooth. Last night we saw where he just erupted for several 3-point baskets in a row, and they all were just like buttons. Just phenomenal player. Very stealthy in terms of the way he plays. Yeah.
That's tough. That is tough. Who do we have to look for on the Tuskegee side?
Well, pretty similar. We don't call them the three-headed monster. We call it probably four over there because everything centers around four of their top players. Of course, with the player of the year, Trei. It's been a challenge for him because night in and night out, he was expecting a double or sometimes triple team in terms of defending teams playing against him. So at this level, when you get into the tournament, the level of the defense is getting higher as well. So he is certainly not playing decoy, but his numbers are down because of all that attention given to him. But you've also got Khalil Jenright, the player going on, who's made a big difference in that Tuskegee rotation because he can light it up from the outside, and he's got the ability to penetrate with that basketball. He's second team all-conference. Anthony Wright wasn't named to the all-conference team, but Wright makes a big difference here at Tuskegee. And the way he goes hits, he's just got that ability to find that basketball and get there on the defensive end, block, or get rebounds, which is something they did not have a year ago. But as we're talking about the four people for Tuskegee, the one that probably got the biggest injustice in terms of not being named to an all-conference team is R.J. Walker.
Oh, yeah, R.J.
Walker didn't even get to the third team all-conference, but this guy is phenomenal. He can light it up on the outside, and he's got this level of leadership that they have not experienced before. He just has that ability when something is required, he delivers. Still, if he leads the conference, and from outside and penetrating with this business at all. That four-year package with Tuskegee has really just enabled them to get to this game.
Oh, man. Well, we're getting close to tip-off. Make a decision. Who's going to win?
I made mine already. I'm wearing mine.
What about you, Dwayne? Mr. Super Politician over here.
Oh, I'm gonna be even more super politician.
Go ahead, dude.
Listen, anybody got a quarter? Alright, cool. I'm gonna flip this coin. Heads. Yeah, heads. Morehouse 10. Tuskegee. And you know what? I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm gonna go with the home team. You say Morehouse. I'm gonna go Morehouse.
Well, they're both playing number one out of their division, so that's going to get you out of the win yet, James.
What? Well, shout out to Isaiah in the comments. Isaiah said Morehouse. You know me, I don't like to walk on the fence. When I say something, I mean it. Morehouse by 10. Morehouse by double digits. They have Tuskegee's number. They're going to give it to Tuskegee however they want. It is Morehouse's year. Morehouse by 10. Oh! And the biggest Tuskegee guy in the world. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this, Mr. Tuskegee. Morehouse by 10. You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
Oh, yeah. I like that song.
Once again, we will show you why he isn't a true fan. He has on no Tuskegee stuff. No Tuskegee gear. Yeah, see, exclusive.
That's right.
All right, we're going to have to wrap it up. This is the SIAC sit down. Yeah.
When they start their broadcast, I'll cut this line cut off.